The theme of our Congress is gender in a changing world, and we really wanted to showcase the vision, the dreams that we have for women, not only in India but globally in a changing world. Today when we look around us, the world is changing so much, whether it is technology, whether it is fundamentalism, whether it is violence against women, and how do we really place gender in such a world?
It's really my pleasure first time to come here, Hyderabad in India. Last time the Congress is held in Ottawa, Canada. So I'm so happy to here again because we can exchange many different experience and practical experience to each other from all over the world. The most important thing is I like India because the country really gives me some different culture shock, especially so diverse and different language, different food, different people, but all the same is friendly smile to me.
Samare nida sare manida mare madani sanida mare re re nida sa asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ज्योतिर्गमया मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमया सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः ॐ शान्तिः
It's a pleasure to see so many of you over here for this very important conference that the University of Hyderabad is very proud to host. This is a meeting that the conference chair, Dr. Pande and Dr. Sita and others have worked on, I should say relentlessly, over the last 3 years. We have been putting in a lot of effort. They've been putting a lot of effort, and I've been watching from the sidelines. And seeing this come together in such a nice way is really very gratifying. I'm glad to see that the theme has attracted so many of you from all across the world, the gender in a changing environment. A few years ago, when I put together a set of stories of women achievers in the sciences, particular attention was paid to seeing what are the kinds of policy changes that are necessary to make it possible for women to contribute in as equal a measure as they are not only capable of doing, but it is absolutely essential for us to have. We need to have the full participation of women, and in a way so that not just that they are 50% of the population, but also 50% of everything else, whether it is in terms of earnings, whether it is in terms of ownership, whether it is in terms of contributions. So I think that realization is very current in India, and it's something that is to be welcomed. And conferences like this can only raise the level of consciousness of everybody in this respect. So I'd like to, in conclusion, thank all of you for coming here and holding your conference in India. I think that helps to raise the level of awareness of the importance of many of these issues. And if the theme is gender in a changing world, I have no doubt that the changing world is changing because you are all here.
In this highly challenging international conference, we intend to be a forum for discussion and networking, the place for academicians, researchers, professionals, administrators, educators, leaders, policymakers, industry representatives, corporate fraternity, advanced students, and others interested in questions of leadership, women empowerment, and gender studies, interested in questions of security of girls and women. What this conference attempts to do is to showcase this diversity, this variety, not only in India but across the world, many of the cultures about which we are not familiar. And therefore, I sincerely hope that this would be a memorable experience and all of you will go back with a feeling of fulfillment. I once again welcome you to the 12th Women's World Congress. Thank you.
I'd like to now invite Dr. Tessie Thomas to deliver her keynote address.
I just want to cover the topic on gender in the changing world. That means the change is towards empowerment. Like well said by Swami Vivekananda, it is impossible to think about the welfare of the whole world unless the condition of women is improved. When I joined as a scientist B, I was somewhere here sitting happily doing the given job assigned to do a trajectory simulation. Very happy doing this job. But at the same time, when I was looking at the director who's sitting way here, I used to feel that they're all enjoying life, sitting comfortably in the AC room. We have been given the task, you do this job, tomorrow we will have discussion. So you are struggling. That was the thought process when I was a scientist, as a junior scientist, and the entry level, looking at the superiors of my institution. When it comes to the director, today, I know I'm sitting comfortably in the AC room, but still sweats. So that is the type of stress level. I mean, this is what is life to do with, but you need to build up your own confidence to come out of this stress. What you need is something of emotional intelligence and emotional strength. It was very difficult for me also to take one scenario. In a meeting, I was called and asked to take up as project director Agni. I didn't know what I was being offered. It is to do with the whole system, developing a missile system. I will not be able to explain in few minutes, but at that moment I didn't know what I am being asked and what I am taking on. But I felt I have been working and I should attempt to work. If I feel I can develop missile systems just because of my confidence and commitment and dedication, I am sure all the people who are gathered here, all the dignitaries come from different parts of the world. I am sure each of one of you can make the difference. With this message, thank you.
I'm from the University of Haifa, and what we call the new women's liberation movement began there with activists, faculty, and students. And I began doing research on women as a result of a visit of Professor Martha Mednick, who was in Israel on sabbatical. The articles in the newspaper about my activities, people from other universities and other faculties started getting in touch with me, asking me about research that's being done. And basically there was no communication between the various social sciences and history. And so Martha Mednick and I talked about the possibility of setting up an international interdisciplinary Congress on women. Gender is definitely changing the world, and the split between what is acceptable for men and what is acceptable for women is disappearing. Men are expected today to have warm, supportive relationships with their children, and we expect women to fulfill their needs and interests, have work and career, and go forward. So I think that this topic is very relevant and comes at an extremely important time.
Regarding the Congress, it was inaugurated by the Agni lady, Dr. Thomas, and the way that it is structured is in such a way that we had unique things as far as gender related issues are concerned. First and foremost, we have the plenary sessions, and these plenary sessions are common to all the participants. They start early in the morning for about an hour on a theme of topical relevance on the major theme that is gender in a changing world. And then we have feminist researchers, world renowned researchers and feminists like Geraldine Forbes, like Angela Miles, then Suchitra Ella, talking about different topics about the changing nature of women in the changing world.
The first wave of feminism in India is, I would call it, prior to the pre-independence era, which covers the period between 1880 and 1940, followed by which the post-independence era, which is between the years 1950 and the 1990s, followed by the late mid-1990s until now, which is about, I would think, less than 20-25 years of what we call today in India as the liberalization or the globalization era. In the 1990s and onwards until the current date, we call this the globalization era, and many changes have happened in the country, in education, in healthcare, in the economy itself, in industry, in all walks of industry, government, and all other economic related activities that have taken place. This slide talks for itself. You can see all the bright, beautiful, smart, intelligent faces of what modern India has created, all in the last 50 years. This is a very small, very strong caption that I thought we need to talk about, because when going back to that 500 million women being the population of this country, in India, if the GDP could raise by 8% if the male and female work ratio of workers went up by 10%. So I think there's a lot of scope, there's a lot of potential. There are challenges, of course. I think without challenges, it just makes it a very, very dull operating place. So I guess even in business, that's the same thing. And I think every day is not the same day and it's never a routine. So I'm sure as a country, as an economy, as an emerging economy, I think India has a very, very large role to play, not only for herself, but certainly among the League of Nations. And I think India is being looked upon as one of the leaders of the emerging world and poised to have all the strengths to become a powerhouse, an economic powerhouse for the future of the world itself. With this, I would like to end my presentation because I would also like to just say one last word that this network that was initiated by the southern region emanating from Chennai and of course spreading itself in the southern states now has gone across to the northeastern region. So I think there are several issues on the professional front, the personal front, on the social front. I think that this organization, the Indian Women Network, would hope to address in a very small, even in a very small level. If we do, I think we will be not helping ourselves, but will be helping the country at large to build that pipeline of strong women leadership that are required to be on the not only on the boards of companies, but also in the policy making bodies of this country and also the world at large. Thank you very much.
We live in a world in which gender is fragmenting, broken up by racial, ethnic, religious, and national affiliations, social class and economic divisions, multiple sexual and gender identities, age, disabilities, to the point where gender itself seems to be disappearing. But in social interaction, we are very uncomfortable if the other person does not look either male or female, but looks androgynous. And we don't know what names or pronouns to use. And what is the first thing that we ask about a newborn baby? Is it a boy or a girl? We have to start by recognizing that the pillars of gender inequality are built into gender as a social institution, a legal and bureaucratic means of dividing the populace into two categories, men and women, and treating them differently. So most social institutions, schools, governments, work organizations, the military, religion, the family, are gendered with practices that privilege the men over the women in the same racial and ethnic group and social class group. Feminists have tried to restructure and change the dynamics of interaction between women and men to redress gender imbalances in politics and control of valued resources, to alter gender discriminatory social practices, and to challenge the invisibility and so-called naturalness of what is taken for granted about women and men. But they have not pushed these agendas to the point of calling for the abolition of gender divisions with the goal of doing away with them altogether. I am arguing here that if gender inequality is to be finally eradicated, legal and bureaucratic degendering must be the ultimate goal. Okay, what is degendering? What is it and isn't it? Degendering does not mean not thinking about gender. Rather, it starts with the recognition that gender is a binary system of social organization that creates inequality because of the ways women and men are differently treated. Therefore, degendering attacks the structure and processes of gender. What would a world without gender be like? Can we think the impossible and visit societies where people come in all colors, shapes, and sizes, and where body characteristics are not markers for status identification or for predetermined allocation to any kind of activity? There would be no women or men, boys or girls, just parents and children, siblings and cousins, and other newly named kin, and partners and lovers, friends and enemies, managers and workers, rulers and ruled, conformers and rebels. People would form social groups and have statuses and positions and rights and responsibilities, and no gender. The world would go on quite familiarly, but it would be radically changed. Gender would no longer determine an infant's upbringing, a child's education, an adult's occupation, a parent's care, an economy's distribution of wealth, a country's politicians, the world's power brokers. It would be a world of multiple genders, more than a world without multiple genders. It would be a world without gender. And I think that in the not too far future, we will see this crumbling of gender divisions and statuses. And I think that it is a utopian vision. Thank you.
In this session, I'd like to suggest the importance of interrogating history for a better grasp of three concepts that I think, as a historian, for me in my writing, are fundamental for understanding women's subordinate status, both cross-culturally and historically. So patriarchy, gender, and agency. And in the last 2.5 days, we have certainly heard these terms over and over again. So the question is, if through much of human history, we don't know what we were like, how did patriarchy begin? This male dominance I talked about. The beginning, of course, is disputed. The most widely accepted theory is, I think, derived from some version of beginning with Friedrich Engels, that disparities of power begin with private property. But even Engels said that divisions in terms of what people did predate private property. And he called that relationship complementary. An author called Gail Rubin suggests we replace patriarchy with the term sex-gender system to maintain a distinction between the tendency to divide people and then the oppression. It's not unnatural to divide people in terms of work, but what explains oppression? She writes that patriarchy is a specific form of male dominance, and she said maybe we could leave it with the Old Testament pastoral nomads. In contrast, the term sex-gender system indicates that oppression is not inevitable, that it's a product of specific social relations. So, despite any objections I have, this word is used and will be continued to be used. But what I would like us to do is be careful when we use that word and not to just use it for the power of men in any situation. Let me move to gender, and I was going to say, after yesterday's talk, I thought, I'm not qualified to do this. Almost 2 decades ago, an author, Terrell Carver, wrote, "Gender is not a synonym for women." And I think we should all sort of write that above our desks. So there are a number of things when we look at gender, we have to think about gender in biology. There's a kind of gender role straitjacket in our history and our knowledge. And this whole binary, which unfortunately I think is so deeply ingrained, male, female, masculine, feminine. So I just going to say something about agency. And I really have to start with some of our kind of grandmothers or foremothers in history. Much of the early work in women's history was celebratory. Women had participated in wars, Rani of Jhansi. Women had composed symphonies and sonnets, and sometimes their brothers or fathers signed their names. Women had made scientific breakthroughs. They had invented things. Close analysis of women's responses to oppressive conditions raised new questions. All right, if a woman chose not to fight domestic abuse, but suffered in silence, was that agency? Did she decide, I'm not going to do this or that? When a woman or women mistreated their daughters-in-law and urged their sons to beat their wives, were they exercising agency? These questions lead historians to think about the role models for women, their socialization, and the factors that would encourage complicity. But they lead to questions of how would we know? This is the question of voice. We're saying, well, but this woman did this, she's brainwashed. When do we know that she is acting in her own self-interest, with her own perspectives, her experiences, her feelings, and her concern for herself? So I'm going to conclude. This is rewriting George Orwell, right? He said he. And I think for me, this is one of the most important statements from a historian. I like it because he shows us history is being written. It's not there, it's not over. We can always revise it, change it. I avoid topics. I don't like the word facts. And I don't like simplifications of history. Women's history, gender history, became subjects at a time when men and women began questioning a narrative that men were in charge and women were subordinate. We wanted to question, and I think we have questioned, and complicated that very simple story to provide a more accurate view of the past. Good history, I believe, will help us understand how we are complicit in maintaining inequalities and help us create a world that is more respectful and welcoming to those who've been excluded from opportunities and rights. Thank you.
Then we had structured it in such a way that there are also women achievers. We wanted to showcase, there are many Indian women who have really achieved marvels in various spheres, and we wanted to showcase the activities of and achievements of these women. And so we had invited women achievers every evening in the, for about 3 hours. And then this is where women like IPS officer Aruna Bahuguna, then the entrepreneur turned founder of Bharat Biotech International, Suchitra Ella, and others have really spoken about their achievements in terms of what they had gone through in their journey as a woman and how they could really achieve milestones after milestones in their journey towards success in each of their spheres. Then we had panels. There are several panels on several themes and sub-themes around the conference, and then these panels were held every evening parallelly to the paper presentations that were held at 10 different locations. So there were paper presentations by authors, researchers, and then academicians and practitioners and feminists, as also the panels were discussions on a theme, and on a very specific theme was discussed by a panel of 5 to 6 members, and then certain resolutions were achieved through these panels. Then we had workshops. Workshops were a place where different thematic areas were designated to be discussed, and certain workshop resolutions were also achieved in these 2 days.
Why Why should desire and the senses be so terrifying in women?
The change now is because we started with when a girl is born and this girl is given out for marriage at birth.
When you become a citizen of a country, do you abide by its rules or not? Islam is a nation, it has its own rules and regulations in each and every aspect of human life.
What we really have been spending time on and having Natalie doing is really setting up this website, which will be the sort of a permanent website, so that the knowledge about this wonderful history of women's worlds will be able to be easily accessed.
In my country, it is us ladies who go for family planning, and men never.
That there's a distinct division between masculine and feminine subjects in the higher education scenario. Society perceives that engineering, technology, commerce, business management, stats, maths, these are all meant for men.
First is family planning, and then the education, the sensitization of the society towards certain fact that the childbirth should take place after certain age and below certain age. There is an age belt during which the healthy kids are born.
They try to maintain a face. They try to portray a face that all is well. All is well at home and all is well at work, but when they go to bed at night, it's a different case. It's not the same.
Gender's integrated into the daily lives of all of us. Everything we do every day is informed by our gender norms. And so what we need to kind of turn to is thinking about how we change.
Now, what I have said today are simply facts of seeking arrangement, and whether or not such websites are prostitution still remains a topic of huge, considerable controversy. But the fact is that they still exist, and they earn millions of dollars of profit on a daily basis. What their future is yet to be determined. Thank you.
I used to be a journalist, and I was walking through the hills of Nepal when I came across rows of villages which didn't have any girls from age 15 to 25. And I began to ask the men in the village where the women were. And some of the men would laugh, some would smile, some would look very sheepish. But some said they all are in Bombay. And I began to look for an answer to that question, which was extremely puzzling.
I was just wondering if some of your activists got married to their male counterparts. So was there any disconnect between their personal lives and their political lives, between those men activists and women activists? Did you ever find any kind of disconnect between the personal and the political?
I think when we have women's program in general,
it is very important to have the participation of men also along with it.
$10 million children worldwide die before reaching their 5th birthday.
In the police, it's very difficult because you have no timings. Sometimes you work 24 hours. Sometimes you don't come home for like a week, 2 weeks at a stretch. And then husband and wife are very rarely posted together. I was the first woman in the state in Andhra Pradesh, that is when it was one state. So a lot of the time the bosses didn't know what to, how to handle a woman officer and how to post us together, things like that. So we were almost never together.
Women's World Congress 2014!
I think even though I'm only in 12th grade, the thing that's most relevant to me specifically is seeing these women who I can become one day, and also seeing the topics themselves are related to girls my age and younger. So learning about the things that they have to go through in this kind of an issue, and seeing the different experiences they have to go through, like migration or the fact that they are forced into some sort of illicit relationships, things like that is really touching to me specifically, just because I'm 17 and it's very close to my age. And also what was really inspiring was seeing the extensive work that these women have to do. I mean, they've been doing it for so long and they're still doing it, and they always find something new to talk about. And even the words that they use, the terms that they use are so specific, and they have to delve into the right words they have to use regarding sex trafficking. For example, Paula was talking about how exploitation is not the right word to use. So just seeing those nitty-gritty details is inspiring to me, just seeing how much they work on this topic.
This evening, my ensemble and I will present for you 3 small pieces, group and solo. We bring to you 2 classical styles from South India, Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi. India has many styles, and I bring to you 2. And we open with a piece called the Dasha Avatar. 10 incarnations of Vishnu, if you realize, also shows us the growth of how mankind evolution happens. You have the use of the iron with Parashurama, you have the use of the bow and arrow, you have the use of the plow, and so on and so forth. So we can find different meanings as we go into it, but I will not go deep into that right now. I'll present to you Dasha Avatar.
Dhim dhim ta udana dhim tana dhirana dhirana dhim dhim ta udana dhim tana dhirana dhirana dhim nadradani dhim tondradani dhim nadadani dhim dhim ta udana dhim tana dhirana dhirana dhim nadadani dhim tondradani dhim nadadani dhim dhim ta udana dhim tana dhirana dhirana dhim nadradani dhim tondradani dhim nadadani dhim dhim ta udana dhim tana dhirana dhirana dhim nadadani dhim tondradani dhim nadadani dhim dhim ta udana dhim tana dhirana dhirana dhim jaya nanda nandana gopala jaya నవనీత చోర గోపాల జయ నందనందన గోపాల
ధీ ధీ తుం తతి గిన్నత తతి గిన్నత తతి గిన్నత ధీ ధీ తుం తతి తరిగిడదం తతి తరిగిడదం తతి తరిగిడద కదా ధీ ధీ తుం ధిం తరిగిడదం ధిం తరిగిడదం తగదగ తరిగిడద కదా
పూర్వతి పౌలస్యం జయతే ఫలం కలయతే కారుణ్య మాతృవతే మృచ్ఛయతే దశాకృతి కృతే కృష్ణాయ తుభ్యం నమః కృష్ణాయ తుభ్యం నమః కృష్ణాయ తుభ్యం నమః.
Originally a Buddhist story from Divya Vandana, Chandalika is one of the most popular plays written by the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore.
शुद्धवरं प्राणलोचनो लोकस्य पापूपति वेशघातको वन्दामि बुद्धम् अघमादरेण तम् बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं
Quli Qutub Shah, 5th Sultan of the Qutub Shahi dynasty of Golconda and founder of Hyderabad. He was an accomplished poet and one of the founder members of Dakhni language. We have chosen one of his ghazals in Dakhni for this evening.
इल्म हुनर का लिखे हैं अज़ल थे हम ना इश्क करारा, लिखे हैं अज़ल थे हम ना इश्क करारा, है इश्क 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 करारा, लिखे हैं अज़ल थे हम ना इश्क खरारा, है इश्क हर एक धात, आलम मुझे तालीम करे इल्म हुनर का, आलम आलम मुझे तालीम करे इल्म हुनर का.
This Congress passed various resolutions, and some of the important resolutions were that we wanted to bridge the gap between theory and practice, make women's issue center stage, and one should recognize the reproductive and protective work of a woman, and there should also be gender should be given due importance. There should be gender budgeting done, but most important, the conference resolution was that we were hoping that there would be a gender free violent free society in which violence against women is not there. And last but not least, we hope that men are also our partners in this fight for a gender just society. So these were various resolutions which were passed during this conference.
Sa ni da pa ma ga re sa ni da ni re ga ma pa ma ga re sa. Sa ni da pa ma ga re sa ni da ni re ga ma pa ma ga re sa. Ni ni re ga ma da ga ma da ni ni sa ga re sa ni da pa sa ni da pa da pa ma ga re sa. Surasa suboda Vishwamanognya Lalita Hridya Ramaniya Surasa Subodha Vishwamanognya Lalita Hridya Ramaniya Amritavani Samskrita Bhasha Naiva Kleshta na Chakatina Naiva Kleshta na Chakatina Surasa Subodha Vishwamanognya Lalita Hridya Ramaniya Lalita Hridya Ramaniya.
It's always said that a good beginning takes us to a happy ending. A happy ending brings us to the threshold of a new beginning. Here we are at the end of the 3 days of very hectic academic sessions that we have had, both in terms of the paper presentations, the panels, workshops, discussions, deliberations. So, I will not take much of my time, but to welcome all of you to this valedictory session, and again welcome you back to the University of Hyderabad at any point of time. Thank you.
Since 1981, feminists have found ways to meet together to create space for the kind of sharing, reflection, analysis, envisioning that we can do when we come together across academy and community from all regions of the world, from our many, many, many different stations in life and different ethnicities and abilities. This is a major achievement of a feminist movement. With the support of institutions like the University of Hyderabad that see the importance of the work that women can do when we work together to make a new world.
As a Canadian coming to this conference, It's been my joy to see so many people around the world struggling with the same issues. In Canada, every day in our newspaper, we have stories of young women being raped. We have stories of men who've murdered their wives. We have stories of the feminization of poverty, issues around the environment that are affecting women. And when I come to this conference, it does me a lot of good to know that there are hundreds of women in so many countries who are studying these important issues and taking action so that our children and our granddaughters won't have to experience the same kind of situation. So thank you for organizing the conference.
As a Pakistani, it's my privilege to be a part of this gathering, and this experience is a lifetime experience for me, and being a first time in India, it's a wonderful experience for me, and definitely when I'll get back to my country, I'll share this experience. Thank you so much for bringing us together here and talking about women issues from various dimensions with the difference in various societies. Thank you so much.
And I would like to say that this experience for me was very intense and very colorful. Of course, I have to say, I never been in India before, but I am going next days to enjoy this beautiful and very, very big and very, very interesting country. Thank you very much, Hyderabad, and everybody. See you in Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you so much for making this conference possible. I have learned a lot, most especially when we talk about discrimination. We women with disabilities face double discrimination. So, my humble appeal as we organize Women Congress, we need to see women with disabilities and girls with disabilities participating also. Thank you so much. And to my new friends, please let us keep in touch. Thank you.
I will just share a couple of things, not much, of what I have been doing on the issue of gender. This is mainly about children around the villages in this new state of Telangana who are adolescent girls and who were studying in the 12th grade, whose parents had never been to school. So we are looking at them as champions, as those who had fought against odds to reach up to 12th grade, and we are looking at the kinds of odds that they have faced. And I must tell you that most of the girls, we've interviewed about 1,200 girls, and almost every girl had mentioned that she was at risk of continuing her education because of eve teasing, boys stalking them, and expressing love to them when they didn't want it, and also making advances and having very difficult bus travel, being pinched at, and the kind of violence they face both at home, incest, and these are some of the things that had come up as responses which had really shocked the team, because we had not even asked many of these very insightful questions on what made it difficult, but they all expressed the difficulties in terms of violence that they faced, which would come in the way of them continuing education. I must finally say that I am here because many, many women have fought for the freedom and liberation for women in this country, and if they didn't exercise agency, I would not be talking to you. And if we didn't exercise agency, I think the future generation of girls and women would not be moving forward So I do hope that we encourage women to exercise agency against structures of violence, poverty, deprivation, and masculinity, and see that we go ahead to build a great society that respects all men and women equally. Thank you very much for giving me this.
To my mind, most important issues are the dignity of women in their daily lives, at workplace, at home, and also on the street. How do you protect the dignity of women? And second thing is self-esteem. How various factors affect self-esteem of a girl child, and women at all these places. These are extremely important questions that have to be addressed. What are the threats to the dignity of women? What are the threats that that women have to really face in their daily lives? How does one go about doing it? It's for this reason that there is a need for a movement against these violence against women, and I'm sure the kind of rights that women have gained over the last few decades is because of the struggle, women's struggle, women trying to influence policy, women trying to create new legislations that that try to enhance the dignity of women. But in spite of legislations, a lot of things go wrong. A kind of statement like, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. If you educate a woman, you educate a whole family and a whole generation. That is the kind of difference that will make for introduction of progressive policies which really try to address the question of gender justice, try to see that gender justice is met in all contexts in all different societies. And I'm sure last 3 days you had a wonderful experience of listening to your participants, listening to your colleagues about their academic work and their experiences. And as I said, all conferences provide opportunities for networking, opportunities for further collaborative work. And I'm sure this conference also helped you to make friends, make new colleagues, make friends among people across different countries with whom you would like to collaborate. And I wish you all the best. Safe journey back home to all of you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
I would now like to give you a brief report of these 3 days. I'm very happy to say that we had about 1,000 participants in this conference who registered. We had representation from 58 countries, including Afghanistan, Brazil, Bangladesh, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bolivia, Canada, China, Costa Rica, Ghana, France, Hungary, Hong Kong, Israel, Islamic Republic of Iran, Kenya, Korea, Lithuania, Nepal, Nigeria, Norway, Netherlands, New Zealand, Pakistan, Philippines, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, Spain, South Africa, Turkey, Taiwan, Uganda, USA and UK, and also across India. I'm sorry if I've left out some country because there was a huge participation from across the globe. And even in India, from different states, we had a lot of participation on varied themes such as gender and culture, gender and history, gender and management, violence, digital divide, globalization, women and work, gender and health, gender science and technology, gender and law. The Congress also saw the organization of few workshops such as trafficking of women, sex work, new reproductive technologies, role of education in empowerment of women, Muslim women's issues, feminist research, and Women's World Congress, 33 years of experience which brought all the previous Congress chairs together to so on one platform to share their experiences and their struggles and the impact they have had. It was a sheer joy of seeing so many participants from different countries and other parts of India, and this has strengthened our belief in feminist bonding and the fact that many men are also with us in creating a gender-just society. If there were any lapses on our part and the participant faced any problems and difficulties, we ask your forgiveness. We will always cherish the memory and hope all of you go back with beautiful memories of the Congress. The next 2 days, as I have mentioned, we will deliberate on the celebration of womanhood through gender and media, a lot of discussion on films and documentaries. Thank you very much.
The next conference is being held in 2017 in Brazil. So the chair
Rating of women against violence. We have that also in Norway. We have it all over the world. So we have to stand together and fight.